Creation's Journey to Life. Day 53. Slavery, Exploiting Sex, Life, and Labor in the Consumerism Concentration Camp. Watch the documentaries The Trap, The Century of Self, and War for historical perspectives. I forgive myself that I have accepted and allowed myself to not realize that the use of sexual undertone imagery to build brand loyalty is in fact branding the consumer as slave property to the corporation in the concentration camp of consumerism slavery. I forgive myself that I have accepted and allowed myself to not realize that accepting the terms and conditions of the side effects of medicine that includes severe conditions that could lead to death and do lead to death or diminished life ability is to accept the gas chamber in the research department of the corporate dictatorship in the concentration camp of consumerism slavery. I forgive myself that I have accepted and allowed myself to not realize that by accepting the sex image in media and advertising and entertainment only benefits the corporate slave monsters in the pursuit of the happiness of profit and makes the consumer an involuntary participant that acts on impulse, on the physical condition branding to consume without regard or consideration for life on earth. As the branded self-interest fuels a greed that can never be satisfied, yet the slave monster daily promises fulfillment, and the slave seeks daily fulfillment as the slave drinks daily from the fountain of knowledge and information imagery that promises life, yet it spreads poison. I forgive myself that I have accepted and allowed myself to not realize that when one travels through the fields of crops of corn or sugarcane that look so green and beautiful, the slave fails to see that all the life, as animals, birds, bugs, trees, and plants that used to coexist in peace before, have been exterminated to make space for the pursuit of happiness of profit, and that in spite of the results of this holocaust of life on earth, producing more than enough food for all people, half the world does not have access to this profit, as they have no money, as the ecosystem of the corporation is profit and not life, and the system of consumerism as profit can only exist if the behavior of the consumer is predictable as a slave to be brand loyal without question. I forgive myself that I have accepted and allowed myself to not realize that the goods produced by the corporation comes from labor, a commodity without which the corporation and consumerism cannot exist. Yet the corporate profit dictatorship manages to brand labor through religion to be something one must be grateful for, as everyone does not have jobs. Thus, in creating the jobless, those with jobs accepted a form of forced labor and having to work and toe the line of policy just to ensure survival. I forgive myself that I have accepted and allowed myself to not realize that the ultimate branding of a slave is the acceptance of fate as a feeling of love, where the reason and meaning of all things are justified to be from some invisible great unable to understand force that is confirmed by those lucky enough to have food, sex, and money, as that is the key to this feeling called love, to have the goods that produce a life that is lovely, while those not in the receiving end of the slave master must become slaves or starve. This bizarre, effective branding confirms the level of programming that exists to override the common sense of what is best for life, with a branded common sense that only considers the universal earth slavery system. I forgive myself that I've accepted and allowed myself to not realize that parents impose on their children the same branding as slaves so as to confirm and justify to themselves as parents that their labor of slavery was worthwhile, and that if the children follow in their footsteps, they have done something right with their lives. In this way, the parent is the guardian of a slave world that get paid by emotional rewards of feelings when their children submit to the system. I forgive myself that I have accepted and allowed myself to not realize that the universities that should have been in the universal service of what is best for all life on earth acts as the trainers of the cogs of the system of slavery by branding labor as professional, that serve as the prison guards of the earth concentration camp to make sure the slaves concentrates on the slave tasks at hand without a chance to realize that they are all living a lie of the slave. In this, realize that if you have always been serving the branded lie as a lie, the truth is in fact unknown and not what could have ever been expected or be expected. I commit myself to show how branded loyalty is the same as being branded as a slave. I commit myself to show that healthcare as big pharma is just a global experiment in the pursuit of happiness in which many die without the killers ever brought to book. I commit myself to show that the quantum physical resonant awareness is programmed by images of memory saved in the flesh, though which decisions, behavior, and loyalty to slavery is ensured. I commit myself to show that Earth is a holocaust of life, and the pursuit of happiness as self-interest is the dictator that still exterminates while laughing insanely at soap operas and entertainment and sport, as the life of the consumer is enjoyed without any realization or guilt of what really happened on Earth and is still happening. I commit myself to show that labor in the current system is slavery, and the more you are willing to enslave others, the more money you will make. I commit myself to show that love is the ultimate payment designed to keep the slaves stupid and controlled. I commit myself to show that parents as slaves can only produce children as slaves. I commit myself to show that education in the system only confirms slavery and does not produce a world that is best for all life. I commit myself to show that social responsibility is to ensure that the world is a place that is best for all life on Earth, and that each one must connect with like-willed people to form a group that as one will produce, through the system that now exists, a world that is best for all life. Stop the apathy of the ego slave and individualization bred by slavery, and realize that life is a group to which you also belong.